Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the CX0F. This is a 2.4 GHz plus Wi-Fi nano quadcopter that retails for $65 on Amazon. The price might seem expensive at first, considering that this is something that's pocket size or palm size, but this could potentially be the most feature-rich nano quadcopter currently on the market. It features quite a few sensors on board, so because it has Wi-Fi, you can actually connect it to your phone and control it using your phone. In addition, it has a built-in camera, so you can see and record content by using your phone's display, which is pretty interesting. In addition, it also features a kind of motion sensor, which has a module located at the base of the quadcopter that follows your hand. It's kind of similar to those toys or those flying balls that we've seen in the past, where it hovers above your hand, and if you move your hand left to right, it tends to follow it in terms of its positioning. So it's quite interesting. It gives you a number of ways to use it, not only to control it using your hands, but of course using a traditional remote. It has a auto return function. You can use it to perform tricks, you can record video, and the list just goes on and on. Now, of course, battery life is going to be a little bit shorter just because the size is quite small and there's so many sensors built in. It's rated at around 5 minutes tops, and Wi-Fi range is 20 meters. It charges up in 30 minutes, which is only average. And in here we have the quadcopter, the remote control, in addition to the charging cables and some spare propellers in case something gets damaged. It comes with in two colors, and you can pick the one that you want in the links down below. Setting the drone off to the side, we have just the remote control, which is also fairly portable and compact. It has joysticks which are rubber accented, so it's not quite as sharp and it's a bit more comfortable to navigate. There are up and down controls in addition to height controls, and there's also what looks like a plug to remove for the battery. It seems like it should be partially charged the first time that you get it. And on the top here is where you can pop in the smartphone as a cradle, so it's actually hidden inside, and it fits up to 5.5-inch phones by holding it for the display. So pretty interesting. It uses a simple micro USB cable to charge the remote, which is nice. It doesn't require replaceable double or AAA batteries, so again, a lot of attention to detail on here, surprisingly, for such a small nano drone. And then you also have access to rubber accents, which makes it more comfortable to grip and hold for extended use. Below here we have the user manual, which is documented pretty well. It also includes a few color images and the QR code to download the app from the Play Store or from the iOS store. And it tells you how to trim, calibrate, charge, and control it in Chinese and English. Here we have a quick diagram that tells you some basic info about replacing the propellers, and then the optical sensor, which is used for locating your hands so that it hovers above your hands at all times. So in here we have access to the proprietary charger for the drone, micro USB cable for the remote control, and also the propellers for spare parts. Taking a look at the design of the drone first, you can see that it is pretty compact and traditional. There are no guards for the propellers, so make sure you don't fly it too aggressively outdoors, or it could be easy to damage the actual blades. But otherwise, it's pretty lightweight. It's made out of a polycarbonate plastic. There's actually quite a few rubber accents going on though, so it's actually has a bit more shock absorbency than your traditional, really low budget mini quadcopter. You can see on the bottom here, this is the optical sensor that detects the motion of the hand. There is a very small integrated antenna for the Wi-Fi, and then that's used for the controlling the motion as well as the images shot on the camera, which is on the side. Obviously, this is not going to be a great filmography quadcopter, just because the image quality is quite limited. It's a fixed focus camera, and again, it doesn't have image stabilization, but nonetheless, it's a cool feature to kind of play around with, and it's a little easier to see what the drone is seeing if you're flying it outdoors or at higher elevations. Otherwise, there's a few LED lights that will illuminate when the drone is on, and there's a small power switch located on the edge, along with the charging port, which is standard for these micro drones. And that's basically it. So a pretty typical and traditional design going on. The app, which is called CX0F, the same name as the quadcopter, it's using a proprietary app that's just been designed for it. It actually looks pretty high-tech from a UI perspective. You can tap on here to connect to the Wi-Fi on the drone, and from there you can then create a free flight. You can take a look at images and videos recorded from the camera, and you can also control it in a analog style if you don't want to use the controls on the remote. There's actually even more tricks that you can do using Wi-Fi that I didn't expect. from the software side. You can even do choreography and trajectory flying, so you can preset and program commands through the app, and the mini drone will carry them out, such as drawing a path on the smartphone, and then such as, like, let's say an infinity pattern, and the drone will then fly in that infinity pattern. So it's very interesting. You can doodle and program the steps that the drone should take to command it. There's even the ability for you to use the accelerometer on the phone, such as tilting it left or right, to physically move the drone left or right. So it's going to mirror the actions on the cell phone's accelerometer. So really, there's so many features packed into this. In fact, it's definitely the most feature-rich mini quadcopter that I've ever seen. So quite exciting. Like most quadcopters, when you first turn it on, it needs to take about 10 seconds to pair and calibrate the accelerometers and gyroscopes with the remote control or your phone. And what you do on the remote is you turn it on, and then you press the up and down keys on the left joystick. Alternatively, you can hold the joysticks down on the left and the right, and that will also pair it in a few seconds with the drone. So let's do a quick sample flight. Before then, I'm going to mention that what some of these keys mean. You can tap on this to throttle between high and low speed for precision. You can also tap it 3 times to access the optical sensor mode, where it will follow the motion of your hand. Now, it's a little tricky. I do wish that there was a separate key that was dedicated to entering this mode, because sometimes I'm unsure if I'm actually in that mode or not. I can long press, or I can just short press and cycle through it 3 times. So it's a little bit confusing from a UI perspective. I wish that this part was better designed. But otherwise, this part is used for doing a flip when it's in mid-air. This is for auto takeoff, this is for auto landing, and this is to change the direction of the drone in Z space. So let's do a quick takeoff. Using the app, I've also connected to the drone, so from here I can preview in 720p HD the camera and what it's seeing in mid-flight. I can also tap on choreography, and from this interface I have the ability to change things such as direction, looping, and motion. So you can see that in this kind of video editing like mode, I can create a sequence of moves such as takeoff, and then it's going to also go upwards, and from here it's going to go left or right, do a loop, and maybe come back down. So I can create these different sequences, and then it will perform them when I tap on save and then start. So pretty interesting. It's almost like a robot in that sense. From free flight, I can then tap on this interface, and I can see again what the drone is seeing. You can see the quality of the image here is decent, not terrific, but it does work. There's not too much delay going on between what's happening on camera and what you see on the phone. That's just because it's using Wi-Fi and not Bluetooth, so it's fairly continuous as far as the action. If I kind of point it outside, you can hopefully get a better idea of what the quality of the image is like. So decent, but not the best. And overall, though, colors are fairly accurate, and at least you can see better what the drone is seeing. I can calibrate the trim for each of the propellers. Tapping in the center here creates the auto takeoff and the auto landing mode. I can cycle through some of the other modes as well. And here I can capture an image, and it creates a capture sound. I can also start recording video just by tapping on this, and you can see the timing on the top start to go. It's going to be saved onto the phone's memory as opposed to on the drone itself. So that works pretty well. I can also take a look at the calibration of the accelerometer. I can take a look at settings as well as its weight. I can enter VR mode, so that splits into 2 screens, so I can put this into Google Cardboard and then see everything in 3D, which is also, again, pretty cool if I'm using the accelerometer mode, where the drone will follow the motion of the phone. So it actually is surprisingly fully featured, and the software actually works a lot better than I expected. There's not really that many bugs, and the most important thing is I haven't encountered any instances really where the app crashed or refused to work. So actually does a pretty good job. Using the remote of the phone also works pretty well. It's quite responsive. The Wi-Fi doesn't have that much lag or latency, so it follows the motion of the phone pretty well. Slightly slower than the remote control, so I would still recommend using this if you want the absolute most precise movements, but overall it works. Again, it's a micro drone, so it's best suited for beginners as well as for learning some tricks if you want to fly it indoors or in a safe space. It's not quite as good if you're flying it outdoors. If there's a lot of wind, there's a lot of pressure, then it easily veers off course. It's also very precise, so the smallest actions may correspond to quite a large movement. It accelerates really quickly, so that's something that you have to get used to when you first play around with it. But otherwise, it's a good way to start off with the drone, and the optical mode that follows your hand also works pretty well, and it's a nice beginner mode to get situated with as well. So that's the CX0F. Overall, this is, again, perhaps the most fully featured mini quadcopter available to purchase. It's really fun to play around with, and it's a lot smarter than previous mini quadcopters I've seen. It even knows, when it's landed or if it's detecting obstacles or if the blades are getting caught up in something, so it's automatically going to shut off. Same thing with landing. When it detects that it's on the ground, it's going to stop the motion of the propellers. So there's a lot of software optimization going on. There's a lot of features and modes for flying this thing. I still think that controlling it is a little difficult, especially for first-time users, just because movement, and acceleration is really so fast. But with the optical sensor and the G sensor mode, where you control it using the tilt on the phone, it's slightly easier to use. If you're getting it set up for the first time and you are trying to use it for tricks or using the remote alone, again, it requires a little bit of time to get used to. But overall, it works well. In terms of battery testing, it indeed got roughly 4 to 5 minutes of fly time. A little bit shorter if I was recording video and using Wi-Fi, a little bit longer if I was only using the built-in remote. So thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the CX0F. So if you're looking for a very fully featured and innovative mini quadcopter, this might be one to consider. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.